I let my neighbor borrow my laptop for a day. 2 weeks later, I was fired after my company found illegal files tied to my IP. She said, "You never asked what I was doing. That's on you." I took the laptop to a tech expert, and what he uncovered in the recycle bin was a set of emails sent to. I never thought I'd end up in the middle of a criminal investigation. I'm not the type. I follow rules. I work in IT, I pay my bills on time, and I don't poke around in other people's business. I don't even get parking tickets. But everything fell apart because I made one mistake. I trusted my neighbor. I lived just outside Kansas City, Missouri. Decent apartment complex, nothing fancy. I've been here 4 years. Quiet neighbors for the most part. One of them, Tasha, moved in last year. She was new to the state, said she came from New Mexico. Claimed she was trying to start fresh. She was always smiling, always striking up conversation when she saw me outside or in the laundry room. Honestly, she was attractive, but there was something about her that felt off. Like the smile didn't match her eyes. I ignored it. Figured maybe she was just going through something. About 2 months ago, I was heading out after an all-night work shift. My laptop was in my backpack, and I was already tired. She stopped me in the hallway. "Hey Mark," she said, stepping out of her place barefoot, holding this piece of junk laptop with a cracked screen. "Can I ask a huge favor?" I didn't want to deal with anything. I just wanted to get food and crash. But I paused. "Sure. My laptop died, and I've got this job application that's due by noon. Can I borrow yours? Just for a few hours?" I hesitated. She looked stressed. I didn't know her that well, but she hadn't ever caused trouble before. She smiled, kind of desperate. I handed her the laptop and said, "Bring it back tonight. I got work stuff on there." "Promise," she said, giving me this cute little grateful laugh. "Thank you." Seriously. That was it. Seemed harmless. I didn't even think about it again. She gave it back that night like she promised. I asked if she had any issues. She said no. I didn't check anything. I just shut it and tossed it in my closet, figuring I'd boot it back up when my next work-from-home rotation started. Worst mistake I've ever made. 2 weeks go by. Normal stuff. I go back to the office for a few days. Then I get the email from HR, subject line, urgent. Please report to Human Resources immediately, no details. I show up. Kevin, my manager, and Andrea from HR are waiting in this tiny conference room. Neither one looks friendly. Kevin pushes a folder across the table. "This was brought to our attention yesterday," he says. Inside the folder are screen captures, IP logs, file download records. Someone had been accessing company files using my credentials, stuff I wasn't even assigned to. Financial documents, customer identity data, claims reports. Worse, there were 2 flagged files with illegal material tied to external downloads. I won't repeat what was in those files. I couldn't even look at the description without getting sick. They said the activity came from my IP address, my laptop, during a time when I was logged in through our secure VPN. I told them immediately, it wasn't me. I explained about Tasha borrowing my laptop. They listened, but their faces didn't change. Andrea said, "We're placing you on unpaid leave while this is reviewed internally. We've also notified the authorities, as we're required to." My head was spinning. I left that building shaking. I went home and pulled my laptop out immediately. I opened every folder, checked every app, looked at my browser history. Nothing jumped out. She must have wiped it. Then I remembered. My neighbor was smiling when I brought it up. Like she wasn't surprised. I walked across the hall and knocked. She answered fast, like she was already waiting. Hair up, yoga pants, acting casual. "Hey Mark. What's up?" "I got flagged at work," I said. "They're saying illegal files came from my IP. From my laptop. You used it. What did you do on there?" She tilted her head and smirked. You didn't ask what I was doing. You just handed it over. What does that mean? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She leaned against the doorframe. Look, I didn't force you to give me your computer. You should probably be more careful. She closed the door. Just like that. No denial. No apology. Just a smug little dismissal. I stood there for maybe a full minute. I should have yelled. Should have kicked the door down. But I didn't. I went back to my apartment, sat on the couch, and started shaking. That's when I called Clay. Clay's a friend. Former hacker turned security consultant. Smart guy, lives out in Independence. I told him what happened, and he told me to bring the laptop over. He ran a full scan that night, but said he'd need more time to dig through the hidden data. Deleted files. Registry logs. Metadata. All the stuff your average user never sees. 3 days later, he called me. You need to come here now. When I got to his place, he didn't waste time. Brought up the laptop. Opened the recycle bin, but not the regular one. The system recycle bin. Most people don't know this, but Windows keeps traces of deleted data in a different spot, especially if it hasn't been overwritten yet. He pulled up cached mail files. What he showed me made my stomach drop. Tasha had used a fake email account while on my machine. She'd logged into a dark mail client and sent encrypted files, stuff from our company servers. Client data. Insurance claim documents. Dozens of them. One email said, used his laptop. Company systems are tight, but he uses the same VPN every time. All access is under his credentials. Another. He doesn't even know I'm watching him work half the time. There were names of clients I never even worked with. She must have copied those files when I was logged in remotely during my last work-from-home day. Or worse, used my saved credentials. Then Clay showed me the real kicker, a draft email she never sent. It was saved locally, hidden in a deep folder. It read, if this blows back, he's the one they'll blame. His name, his IP, his login. Perfect cover. She planned the whole thing. Used my machine, my network, my digital footprint as her shield. That night I didn't sleep. I paced my apartment, over and over again. My hands were shaking with rage. She didn't just frame me, she studied me. Knew my schedule. Used me like a decoy. And she thought she could walk away from it. Not a chance. I wasn't just going to clear my name, I was going to take her down. I called my lawyer the next morning. Jeff is a friend of my uncle's. Old school guy, kind of rough around the edges, but sharp. He listened to everything and didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he just said, we'll need to hit her fast. Before she realizes you're not rolling over. We printed every log Clay found. Every email. Every trace of access that showed her using my laptop. We backed everything up to 3 external drives. Jeff helped me submit it to my company's legal team, along with a formal statement. I figured once they saw it, they'd call me right away. But days went by. Nothing. Meanwhile, I still saw Tasha in the hallway. Smiling like nothing had happened. Like she was untouchable. One night, I saw her getting into an Uber, dressed up like she was going to a dinner downtown. I followed. Stayed back 2 cars. I know that sounds crazy, but I wasn't thinking straight anymore. I needed to know who she was meeting. She got dropped off at a bar in Overland Park. I parked across the street and waited. She met a man there. Mid-30s, suit jacket, no tie. They hugged like they knew each other well. She handed him a flash drive. They were gone in under 30 minutes. I followed them out. The guy drove off in a black Mercedes. I didn't follow him. I didn't want to blow my cover. But I got his plate. I gave the number to Clay. Took him 2 days to trace it. The car was registered to an LLC out of Scottsdale, Arizona. That triggered something. I started digging into Tasha's past again. With Clay's help, we ran deeper background searches. Eventually, We found a sealed civil case involving someone with her old last name, Dunley. The case was tied to a breach at a medical data firm in Phoenix 3 years ago. The details were light, no criminal charges, but multiple employees were quietly let go. One person disappeared from all online records 6 months later. That person looked exactly like Tasha. Different name. Different state. Same pattern. She'd done this before. I went back to my company again. Demanded a meeting. This time I didn't go through HR, I emailed our CTO directly. I attached everything. He replied the same day. Said he wanted to meet the next morning. That meeting changed everything. He brought 2 other people from corporate security. They had already started looking into the materials I'd sent days earlier but hadn't updated me because they needed time to verify. When I walked in, they didn't look angry this time. They looked alert. The CTO said, "We believe you. And we think this goes deeper than just your device." Turns out, several small leaks had been flagged over the last 3 months, but nothing that had led back to an employee. Now they were seeing a pattern. My situation opened the door to something bigger. They asked for everything Clay and I had. I gave them copies of all of it. I didn't even care about the job anymore, I just wanted her exposed. A week later, I got a call from an unknown number. It was a detective working with cybercrimes out of Kansas City PD. Said they'd received a referral from my company and were opening an official investigation. That same day, Tasha disappeared. Her car was gone. Her door was locked up, shades drawn. It looked like she just left in the middle of the night. I knocked a few times. Nothing. I checked with the leasing office. They told me her lease was paid through the end of the month, but the emergency contact listed wasn't real. The number went to a burner phone. She ghosted. But she didn't cover her tracks well enough this time. Clay had installed a packet sniffer on my network the week after we found the evidence. It had quietly tracked outgoing connections from my building, specifically, from her unit. We had IP data from the last few days before she vanished. She'd been accessing another cloud account. One not tied to her email, or even her fake one. We used the logs to build a new trace. It led to another storage server, one that had hundreds of gigabytes of client data. Insurance files. Banking data. Medical histories. Stuff worth a lot on the dark web. Clay said. She wasn't just leaking your company. She was running a full-blown data pipeline. And she'd used me as the fall guy to keep it going a little longer. I gave all this to the detective. Things started moving fast after that. Federal agents got involved. My company went full internal review mode. I got called back in, not for discipline, but for help. They wanted to understand how she worked. What vulnerabilities she'd used. What blind spots we missed. They also asked if I'd be willing to testify if it came to that. I said yes. I wanted her in a courtroom. I wanted her to see me standing there, alive and not destroyed like she planned. But she wasn't done running yet. One of Clay's contacts flagged a new username tied to her patterns. It showed up on a darknet marketplace forum a few weeks after she left. Same writing style. Same kinds of files being sold. She was trying to rebuild somewhere else. I forwarded the profile to the agent assigned to my case. This time, the FBI traced it fast. She slipped up by using the same VPN endpoint she'd used once from her apartment. Tiny mistake, but it was enough. They tracked her to a motel in St. Louis. She was arrested on a Tuesday morning. They found 3 laptops, 6 external drives, and a notebook full of passwords and account lists. Some of the names on there? People from my building. People I'd never spoken to. She'd been watching all of us. When they arrested her, I figured that was it. Game over. But it wasn't. 2 days after her arrest, I got a call from the agent again. He asked if I could come in. They had something they wanted me to see. It was a video. A screen recording. They'd pulled it from one of the external drives she had on her when she was arrested. It showed a remote desktop session, my desktop. Dated the exact day she borrowed my laptop. She had software running in the background, silently mirroring my screen while I worked later that week. I didn't even notice. She was watching me enter passwords, watching me access internal files, reading my emails. She didn't just copy files. She studied me. Learned how I talked, how I wrote, how I moved through the system. So she could impersonate me and plant things without raising red flags. She had even typed out fake Slack messages to other employees under my name, on a cloned copy of our internal chat. Trying to build a story that I was sloppy, maybe even disgruntled. She was trying to bury me. Not just frame me. Make it look like I was guilty and careless. And if I hadn't gone to Clay? If I hadn't pushed? That's exactly what would have happened. At first, she denied everything after her arrest. Said I was obsessed with her. That I'd planted the files myself, and tried to blame her when I got caught. But the evidence was overwhelming. The emails. The IP traces. The surveillance from the motel. The notebook, with my name and apartment number circled, next to the word easy. I sat in the courtroom as the trial unfolded. I testified. Clay testified. Even Jeff came. I watched her sit there, silent, scribbling notes she'd never get to use. She was found guilty on all counts: identity theft, computer fraud, wire fraud, possession and distribution of stolen data, and obstruction. She got 22 years in federal prison. The judge called her calculated, predatory, and entirely without remorse. That wasn't the end of it for me, though. The company offered me my job back again, this time with a raise. They also offered to pay my legal fees. I turned it all down. I didn't want to walk those halls anymore. Didn't want to sit at that same desk where people had whispered behind my back before the truth came out. Instead, I started consulting on cybersecurity for other small firms. Quiet work, behind the scenes. Helping people protect themselves from exactly the kind of breach I'd lived through. But I wasn't done getting justice. Because there was one more person who helped Tasha. The man in the suit. The one I saw her give that flash drive to. He never showed up again. But I had his face burned into my memory. I gave everything to the feds. It took months, but they tracked him down. He was operating under a shell company that had ties to 3 other data breaches in the last 2 years. They got him too. Different trial. Different courtroom. Same result. He's serving 14 years. And just last week, I got a letter forwarded to me by the FBI. From Tasha. It was short. 1 line. If you hadn't looked in the recycle bin, none of this would have happened. No apology. No regret. Just that same smug attitude. But you know what? She was right. If I hadn't looked, she would have destroyed my life, and disappeared like she did in Arizona. Again. Instead, she lost everything. And I got my life back, piece by piece. This time guarded. And wide awake.